Hello and welcome to Mindlift, your destination to unlock your peak health performance based on scientific insights and inspired by real life stories.
Brought to you by the Brain and Performance Center, a DP World company here from the vibrant city of Dubai. So today we're going to talk about what I would probably argue is one of the biggest medical innovations in the past 10 years. And at the moment, probably a topic that is one of the hottest in the field of medicine, weight loss injectables such as Ozempic and Mounjaro.
So, weight loss injectables, are they indicated for me? When should I take them? Should I take them? What are the side effects? Am I encountering any risks by taking them? What are the facts about them? The myth? Are they really indicated for me or not? Let's find out together with Dr. Umair.
So hopefully by the end of this episode, a lot of our viewers and people who are listening will be able to have that knowledge that they can essentially make the right decision. Fair?
Fair.
Good.
It's always about making the right decision, right?
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to our health and well-being.
And we always said that knowledge is power. So people are making these choices at the moment without actually knowing what they're potentially getting themselves into. And it's a big problem here because you can go to a pharmacy and over the counter buy any medication that you want, pretty much. And that in itself carries its own risks. So let's dig a little bit deeper and hopefully be able to give our viewers a better understanding.
So, Dr. Umair, please explain to us in a very simplified way, when do you prescribe weight loss injectables?
Okay.
And are they initially weight loss injectables or the indication is completely different and it became a weight loss medication currently?
So many times in medicine, we actually have a medication for a purpose, notice a side effect, and that side effect becomes the principal reason why that medication is used. Famous examples in the past. Indications for this medication actually originally were for diabetic control. My first interaction was probably around 2005, 2006, when we had a medication in this class of medication used for controlling diabetes. And at that point, we had many options, but the end option was a subcutaneous, so an injection into the stomach to help control diabetes. So that was the origins of these medications. However, what we've noticed and what's been picked up with time is that they have this significant side effect of weight loss.
Yeah, which is an amazing side effect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why they are so popular nowadays.
Absolutely.
So actually, there are specific medical criteria, and generally speaking, they're focused around diabetes. What we've seen in the past probably 1 to 2 years is now these medications are actually being licensed for weight loss.
Yeah, but not all of them.
No, not all of them, just a few of them.
Few of them are indicated in weight loss as well. When we say it's indicated in weight loss, is it any weight loss or there are specific criteria, right? And this is very important to address, that it's not weight loss in general. There are criteria for this weight loss.
So generally speaking, when it comes to medicine, we look for this quote unquote term obesity. In essence, it's your BMI, your weight. It's a measure of your weight over your height.
Yeah.
And what we target for that is a certain number. So it's your weight over your height squared, and that should be around 30 and above. And at that point, potentially these are indicated, or in certain cases, 27 with another condition that carries a risk, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, or certain conditions which are associated with affecting either your cardiovascular system or increasing your risk. So there are criteria and guidelines. However, as I'm sure you're aware, these are now becoming lifestyle medications, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And we'll get to that later because it's very important to talk about how some individuals would use this medication even if it's not indicated medically in their case. But before that, how about we go through some facts and myths about these injectables? For example, a lot of questions we get from our patients, right? Like, I don't want to do it, even if it's indicated, because I don't want to get any cancer. What are your thoughts about this?
I mean,
What
we
do you
always,
tell them?
okay, so I always use the approach that there is no medication that comes without side effects. However, an awareness of those side effects helps us manage it. Now, one of the biggest concerns with these medications that's been passed around is their risk of cancer, and in particular, thyroid cancer.
Right.
The roots behind this actually is this was found in initial studies actually on non-human models, essentially on rat models. And what they found was there was an increased risk of a specific type of cancer of the thyroid. However, up till this date, there has been no evidence of actual cancer in human trials, from my understanding and also from yours.
Yeah, absolutely. But as a precaution, if any patient has a family history or a personal history of thyroid cancer, we would avoid prescribing it just as a precaution.
Absolutely.
Right?
And I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. So many patients think that weight loss injectables really work in our body and help us lose weight because they just stop or reduce our appetite. I always try to explain to them that no, it has a lot of different actions in our body and on different organs, right? So from your perspective, how do you explain this to the patients?
I think we just break it down into the different actions of the medications. So we can actually do one each. So I'll start with the easy one. So these medications actually have a central effect on the brain. And what they actually do is, from a central point of view, reduce your hunger, or the term they use, satiety, but in essence, hunger. You actually centrally feel like you're fuller, you don't want to eat, and therefore it does have a appetite suppressant effect.
Right.
Number one.
Yeah, this is number one, the easiest, and this is the most common, and everyone knows about it. What is number two?
I'll let you do this.
Number two, it increases actually the secretion of insulin in the body after a meal. Okay, and this helps metabolize the sugar that you ingest after each meal, which leads to a better glucose or sugar control in your blood.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Third one on you.
Number three. Let's talk about the effect it has on the stomach and the bowels. So essentially what it's doing is it's slowing down the transit of food through your stomach and through your bowels. So what it basically will do is make you feel fuller for longer. Food is slowing down, feel fuller, don't need to eat.
Yeah.
And it gets a feedback that you just don't have any appetite.
Yeah. And the absorption of the food, because it's slower, it helps regulate the sugar in the blood like better.
Absolutely.
Because it's taking time actually to pass through the bloodstream. And I will talk about a fourth point, and I would say maybe it's almost the last one. It increases the insulin in the body, but it reduces, on the other hand, the glucagon, which would increase actually the sugar. How can I explain it in a simple way? Availability in the bloodstream. So by reducing the amount of glucagon, we are reducing the increase of sugar in the blood, the glucose in the blood.
So better regulated.
Absolutely.
And interestingly, actually, the additional point is there's some evidence actually to suggest it affecting fat cells. So I was speaking with a couple of the endocrinologists and diabetologists, and they've mentioned that the impact it's having actually on fat cells, and it's causing a breakdown of fat cells. So, I mean, what we can both agree is that this one medication is actually affecting pretty much every system within the human body to a degree, from the brain to the liver to the stomach to the pancreas. And obviously, all of the effects must carry side effects. So why don't we run through some of the side effects?
Side effects. So logically, the most common side effect will be digestive, in the stomach and in the bowels, of course. You can have nausea, feel nauseous, vomiting, and of course, this can even lead to dizziness, hypotension, dehydration. And it's very important to know that, to be aware that if we're vomiting a lot or we're dehydrated, is to go and see the doctor or go to the ER. Very important.
Absolutely. So I actually interestingly had a case like this probably about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago when these medications were relatively new. I had a patient who called me up to say, listen, I'm really struggling with nausea. I'm really struggling with vomiting. We did our thing like we normally would do, take a full history, done a workup. And she wasn't pregnant, for example, common things.
Yeah.
I said, have you taken anything new? Have you started anything? Nope, nothing at all. Everything's been fine. First day, she went to hospital. They gave her hydration. They gave her some medication, went home. Second day, it carried on. Third day, it carried on. On the third day, she decided to send me a photo of the weight loss injectable that she was taking and saying, by the way, I started this medication. The interesting point about this is two. Number one, if you are taking this medication, bear in mind that it is a medication. It's not a supplement. It's not something that you're just taking that's going to help an appetite suppressant. It's a medication with side effects. And as health professionals, we need to be aware of it because it has implications.
Absolutely.
And number two, it's actually quite a significant side effect that it's actually hospitalized someone. And you need to tell the physicians that you're going to see.
Absolutely. And this is the most common side effects. What are the other important side effects to know?
So the interesting thing is you mentioned diarrhea. The other counter argument is some people actually get constipation.
Absolutely.
So I've come across people who have said they're really, really struggling. Lack of appetite, which is its intended outcome, but sometimes people are actually truly surprised by the degree of lack of appetite they actually have. Common side effects with any medication. Some people might have a little bit of a reaction to it. Some people might not agree with it. Some people might get a localized reaction from the injection. Other big side effects is we've mentioned the impact it has on organs. Now, one of the organs that it impacts is the pancreas. The pancreas essentially is the insulin control center. So in some cases, it can actually cause inflammation of the pancreas. And one of the contraindications for it, you should not give it to people with a history of pancreatitis.
Absolutely. Or even if there is an excessive alcohol consumption, we need to inform our patients to be aware if they're taking the medication at the same time, they have to lower the intake of alcohol during the medication. But I would like to talk about another side effects that we don't really talk about much, but we've noticed it, right, in our practice. And do you know what I want to talk about just by the look in
I have a feeling. I have a feeling. I don't know how you want to define this. Is it going to
Let's
be
define it as mood change.
okay? Psychological.
Psychological changes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk a bit more now about the psychological changes related to weight
Taking
loss
these.
injectables.
So this is a very interesting topic, actually, and we were lucky enough, both of us, to be at the International Family Medicine Conference, where there was a massive presence, I would say, of weight loss injectables. Now, the interesting thing is there's two schools of thought regarding this. Number one would be whether or not there is a direct effect of the medication on a central point of view.
Yeah.
That is causing people's mood to change, whether they're having mood swings, whether they're having extremes of lows, extremes of highs.
Yeah.
There's something potentially there. Again, we're just hypothesizing. There's no true evidence for this. It's only anecdotal on the basis of what we've seen from people. The other argument is, as humans, as a species, we associate, yes, absolutely. It's what we call hedonism. For me, it's hedonism.
Pleasure and food.
Absolutely.
And you're taking this away from me.
And the hardest time, for example, and I always use this example, is Ramadan time.
Yeah.
It's Ramadan and I'm fasting. I'm trying to look for ideas of things to do because everything revolves around let's go out and let's meet up, let's have a coffee, let's have food.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can't do that.
No.
So removing that pleasure that we get from food, whether it's the hormonal response, whether it's the social element, and you lose that completely. Is that the reason why people are so moody, or is it something a little bit more?
Yeah, this is something to look forward to understand a bit better in the future if you have any other studies or research to dig down into this. But this is absolutely one side effect that we noticed within our patients. And the most important thing to know now is that if it happens, it needs to be addressed. And if it's too serious, maybe it's we need to know as well when it's time to stop, what's causing it.
So just on this point, I'm actually going to play devil's advocate here and switch it around. Weight gain or obesity generally, there is a strong association in the literature with depression. Generally speaking, people who unfortunately are obese have higher rates of depression.
Yeah.
So the counter argument to all this would be, if I do end up losing weight, I actually feel better about myself and it elevates my mood. So at what point is this balance right?
I think it's one symptom with different causes. So I can still feel depressed, but because something else, right? Like, I mean, it's the outcome is the same. Like, it's the feeling of I don't have the perfect or the happy mood at this moment, but the cause is different. So we cannot generalize and say that everyone who's taking the weight loss injectables will end up having a very bad mood or mood swings or depression, right? But there are some cases, maybe few, and these cases need to be addressed, like seriously addressed, So if this is a message to our viewers, if you're taking these injectables for any reason, indicated or not, and you feel mood swing and you feel like you're not like before, please go see your doctor.
And in a negative way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Because if you're happy, it's fine. We're all happy. Right?
Absolutely.
No problem. But going from there, I would like to discuss now. There are individuals taking the medication over the counter, even if it's not indicated off label. And the amount of these people might be increasing. Let's discuss a bit, Dr. Umair, about this and try to explain to everyone what are the risks that they might be encountering and what is the best way to do it so we can limit the risk, prevent serious side effects from happening.
Look, this is a topic that we could probably speak for hours about. And there's a few complexities, I think, around the situation. First and foremost, I was reading an article about the use of these weight loss injectables. So they bundled up the two types of medication, GLP-1s and the combination medication.
Yeah.
Now, in the past 18 months, you'd probably not be surprised to know, but there's been a 600% increase in use, especially in the younger population. They define actually as under 30-year-olds. Now, we know the amount of type 2 diabetics under 30 is not that many, which clearly is pointing towards the fact that this is now becoming a, quote unquote, for me, a lifestyle medication. Agreed?
I totally agree. Yeah.
So this is the first point that I think we need to shed a little bit of light on. In terms of the availability of medicine now, we're in a world where, like I've mentioned, you can go out to a pharmacy, especially in the country that we live in, and buy it without the due diligence or the awareness of risks and side effects. And we've just spoken about a few, some potentially very serious and some potentially expected or mild. But what it does mean is that this is a medication that's had its own specific indication, and this is a medication that does come with its risks. Do not treat it like a simple supplement. And I think that's what we need to encourage anybody who's thinking about these medications to be aware of. As such, any medication, I personally believe, if you're considering it, the right way to go about it is not making that decision on your own. It's a decision that needs to be made through a professional, somebody who has either experience or a physician who could basically talk through, number one, what the risk is, number two, what the indication is, number three, is it even indicated for what you want to achieve?
Don't you think that most of people, I don't want to generalize, but would go for this solution as a shortcut?
Please do generalize.
Like, listen, if I don't have time to go work out and I love to eat and I cannot control all these things and I don't have time, as we said at first, like to have a healthy lifestyle, and I can have one injection per week, and this is all it takes for me to get my dream body in a very short time. How do you convince these people and these individuals not to do it and that they shouldn't do it?
I mean, it's difficult. Let's be honest, it's very difficult.
I know.
Human beings, if they want to do something, they'll basically do it.
Yeah.
For years, we've been telling people about eating the right things, exercising the right amounts. Do they do it? Absolutely not. So if somebody has a thought in their mind, and on top of that, it's probably reinforced by other people or social media or whatever they've heard from personal or experiences, they're going to go and do it. Whether or not they should do it is a different question. So if somebody has decided we are going to do this, they're going to do it. That's in their mind.
And the most the problem that we encounter usually in family medicine practice, and these people who decide actually to do it anyway, the problem is if we put pressure on the fact that they shouldn't, they will hide it. So we will not be able maybe to take good care of them in the right way. And if we say, okay, like we cannot encourage it because it's not indicated and they're encountering a lot of side effects and risks, right? So we're in a position as doctors as well as physicians, we're a bit in the middle between what the science is telling us to do and not to do, and what our patients are doing, and how can I support in the maximum way that I can in their personal decision and minimize the risks, right? And this is a bit of a dilemma that we go through on daily basis with these weight loss injectables. I know that sometimes I have a hard time with this, and sometimes I'm even conflicted with what should I do? How do I do it? How about you? Do you have the same experience? Do you go through the same feelings?
Absolutely. I think there is not a day that goes by now within our clinical practice where we're encountering this. And it brings me back to your point that you made earlier. People are looking for quick fixes right now. And is it a result of, look, there's different people out there. There are people who have been trying their whole life, who have had battles with weight, who have tried every single thing. I've got a personal trainer. I'm training 5 days a week. I'm eating whatever I'm told. I'm on this diet, whether it's keto, whether it's paleo, whether it's intermittent fasting, and they're not getting results. If you then tell me that something has come up on the market that can help me achieve what I've wanted to achieve and what I've been trying, and I've put in so much effort and I'm not getting there, of course you're going to take it.
Yeah.
From a mindset point of view, if I tomorrow was to turn around and tell you that you can go and work for a whole year and I will give you 100,000, 500,000 dirhams, or actually there's a quick fix to get to that point, you're going to take the easier option to get the end result. And that's just the human mind.
Absolutely.
But this is all coming at a cost. And this is what I think, and this is what I hope that we can explain to people, that there is a cost associated with this. And we've already touched on some of the side effects, some of the adverse effects that are associated with it. But how about the medications in terms of when you stop them, what happens?
So we know that if you stop the medication suddenly, you are, and if you prescribe it at first for weight loss and you stop it suddenly, we know that you have a higher risk of regaining weight very, very fast, even more than what the weight that you had at the beginning, right? So to stop the medication, usually we have to do it progressively, and it has to be under medical supervision always. And if it's to replace it with something else, usually you can just stop and replace right away, or you can do the progressive stopping and progressive introducing of the new medication. It depends on every doctor's practice, their expertise, their experience, and what's best for the patient. But don't stop it abruptly like this without a doctor's indication.
Yeah.
Very important. I want to highlight something as well related to these injectables, weight loss injectables. Yeah, we get slimmer, but on the same time, we're not losing only fat, right? We're losing skeletal muscle weight. And this is very important to talk about and to discuss, because we don't really talk about it much, you know, like we look nicer in our clothes, but we forget that we're losing our muscles as well. So we become more fatigued and we become weaker.
Yeah. And actually, you've got unhealthy weight loss there.
Yeah.
You're left in a situation where they're almost like jelly. They're like jelly on bones. That's how I like to describe them, which basically
I
means...
call them Mounjaro or Ozempic, or you know, I came with a verb for the
action.
for the action. You know, it's like, yeah.
No, it is
It's a joke.
It is. Look, I think if we're going to go down this route, and people have made their mind up that they want to go down this point, I think it's very important that they have the correct infrastructure around them to make sure that it's used in the correct way. They have a strength and conditioning coach, person and personal trainer, or they are making sure that they're engaging in strength training. Because as you know, a loss of muscle mass, apart from what you've mentioned earlier, increasing risk of injuries when they're going to be training.
Absolutely.
In terms of higher risk, you might be losing muscle and losing weight. If your fat levels are still up, what's the knock-on effect on simple things like your cholesterol levels, etc.? You're not losing it in a healthy way. And we know that that has a longer-term side effect. The other thing is also, when you're going to stop and you're going to try to switch to another strategy, are people aware of the actual rebound effect? Studies have shown whatever type of medication we are taking,
have a rebound effect.
you're going to have a rebound.
Absolutely.
It's proven.
Yeah.
Some of the research is showing after about 18 months of using it, when you're stopping it, you inevitably will rebound and regain a lot of weight.
I would add on the muscular training and the conditioning, you know, the diet. Diet is very important for all the patients or clients taking the weight loss injectables, right? It's very important to even have at least one or a couple of appointments with a dietitian and explain to her or to him that we are going to be initiating this treatment, and even initiate the specific diet even before initiating the injectables, right? Because we will most probably have a higher intake of protein, so we can absolutely balance the muscle mass loss, right? And we have to balance as well the amount of carbs, sugar, and
no, they need a full macronutrient analysis,
and
macro calorie analysis,
I
where
would
they can
even go for a body composition.
Yeah.
I would do it absolutely, and do it like once a month when they initiate it, at least to be having an objective follow-up and monitoring of the effect of the medication on their bodies.
Yeah.
So we can actually act and very fast and prevent any huge or very significant muscle mass
loss. Yeah. So the interesting thing with all of this, actually, also that people ask is, how do I start? What do I start? And you mentioned earlier, how do you stop? And some of these medications have only been approved by the FDA for weight loss indications only within the past 12 to 18 months. The reality is, out there's not actually many guidelines that people are following or clear indications for how to stop the medication, how you would down titrate that medication, how you would reduce it in practical terms.
If there is any maintenance dose, for example, do I have a maintenance dose that I can continue for a lifetime, or should I stop it at some point? What are the risks I'm encountering? And this is specific to individuals who are taking the injectables the weight loss injectables only for weight loss, okay? This doesn't apply on the people with actual indication of diabetes.
Yeah.
And what's even more surprising is like it's been sold a lot off-label even before it was FDA approved
Agreed.
for weight loss.
I mean, we've been interacting with this
And we've been
medication.
even out of stock for a while, you know, because people were like, this is the miracle treatment. Let's all go and get it.
So we've probably been in this space past 2.5 years, I would probably say. So we're aware, and we knew that for a long time there was shortages, actually to the point where they actually changed the device that they were giving the medication for to overcome the shortage. So
Yeah.
and the sad thing at that point was a lot of the diabetics who actually wanted or needed the medication for the diabetic indication weren't getting it because of the shortages in stock. The other implication that we also need to talk about is the financial cost. These medications aren't cheap. They can range anywhere between 800 to almost 1,800 dirhams per month for a month of injection. So when you add it over the course of a treatment, it's quite a significant amount that people are investing. But it also shows you that what level people were at from a psychological standpoint, that they were willing to invest this.
Money for a shortcut and a quick fix.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Rather than like incorporating a healthy lifestyle, taking a bit more time to achieve their goals. And
that being said,
this is the mindset. This is the mindset that we cannot change, you know?
So then, what's the patient profile that you would most likely recommend this for? Who would you say should be taking these weight loss injectables and who shouldn't? What's your own criteria?
Listen, I follow the recommendations, of course, the scientific recommendations. So for any diabetic patients or obese patient who are desiring to lose weight, or the diabetes, if the traditional medication is not working, or they have uncontrolled diabetes and it's indicated, of course, I would prescribe it. And we all know that most of insurances would reimburse that, and we're absolutely legitimate in this. And we already know in advance that we will be having a positive outcome and positive results. Off-label, to be honest, I've never prescribed it, and I would never prescribe it. But however, if I have patients who made the decision, despite my explanations, despite knowing the risks that they're encountering, the side effects and everything, and they make this individual decision to take it, I will not prescribe it. They can buy it over the counter, but at least I'm there for them to support. And I monitor them and I support, and I help them through the initiation of the treatment, explaining the side effects, how to control, prevent the side effects, and what to do mostly in case something serious happens. Like I'm alone at home and I'm vomiting and I'm dehydrated. What do? I go to the ER right away and I tell them, first thing I say, I'm taking weight loss injectables. It's very important to talk about it because it's like a taboo, right? Like most of the, not more, I don't want to generalize again, but there are individuals,
a lot of
you didn't
individuals
see them from like a month ago, and you see them a month later and you're like, oh, you look amazing, you lost a lot of weight. Would they admit that
No.
they're taking the weight loss injectables? Most, like, I know because I'm a doctor and I know this profile, but a lot of them would not really admit that they're taking it.
So why is
don't
that?
you think that? Mostly the women, right? We don't want to admit
Because
that that we
Okay.
take things and we do.
So, two things. Number one, taboo. Agreed, taboo. Everyone feels as though it has
Is the
negative
injectable,
connotations.
are the weight loss injectables a taboo, or is it the body perception and the weight itself that's a taboo?
I think it's the
You see, as a man,
complexity.
you cannot answer.
No,
No,
no.
They're so complicated.
I think it's the number one, the complexities of how will others perceive me. When I turn around, if I was to turn around and tell them that I'm of normal weight or underweight and I take medication and I've tried to get my weight down, the first thing is, why the hell are you doing it? Why do you need to take
Okay.
medication? So that's the first thing. They don't want to be judged by others. But number two is, as human beings, we absolutely love people praising us. We live for comments. So when someone comes to you and tells you, oh my God, you look great, what have you been doing? What are you going to say? Oh yeah, I've been working hard, I've been putting in the effort. You almost we need that kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? We need that almost praise from others, or that ratification to say, you've done a great job. And if you want to go down the quick fix, but you're like, I'm trying hard, I've worked hard, it makes us feel better. And maybe we're worried about what their perception of us is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Totally makes sense. Yeah.
But we encounter it a lot. How many people have you probably know that are on it, yet admitted to being on it?
No, but I always find out myself.
Some of the telltale signs, I think, this rapid weight loss.
Yeah. But for all these people and the viewers, if you're doing it and it's not really indicated and there is no way of changing your mind, please at least inform your physician.
And you mentioned that you haven't prescribed it from a lifestyle point of view, off label or off license, which is fine. And I think that's the way that medicine should be. We adhere to evidence-based medicine. What is documented, what the guidelines are, that's what we should follow. But the interesting thing is, we're in this position where more than half, I'm probably under exaggerating, but there's a lot of people who are on this medication against physician recommendation. But we're in this awkward position now because we have patients who are taking a medication which was not indicated or should not have been commenced. But we're having to still manage all of the potential implications, side effects, risks. And if somebody's going to be adamant they're going to do something, we then get into this difficult position because we need to be the patient's advocate. We need to look after them and do everything we can do, but they're doing something against medical advice. So you're almost...
But this is what we do, Dr. Umair, right? This is our job. This is what we do.
It's the tough part.
Yeah, we are the person they trust. We are the person they rely on. We are the person that support, that monitor, and that don't judge. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, you're right.
Patients, and this is our job. This is what we do. Whether it makes sense or it doesn't, this is what we do. It's when a patient comes to you and wants to tell you something. It's like anything, like in psychology and psychiatry. They come and tell you everything they go through. They feel their deepest, intimate feelings, right? And it can be right or it can be wrong, or they're doing the right thing or the wrong thing, but we don't judge them. We don't tell them you shouldn't do this, you should have done this. If you'd done this, you wouldn't be at this place now, right? We listen, we support, we help find solutions, we explain. And this is, for me, the same situation. We have to support and repeat every time that this is risky. Think about it. We always advise to make the right decision for them. But even if they're making the wrong one, we should support them anyway. This is what I think. This is what I would do.
I agree.
Until they get to a point, maybe one day, they'll make the right decision for them and for their health.
No, I agree. Absolutely. One thing I will say is that we've spent a lot of time talking about not necessarily the negative aspects, but some of the difficulties encountered. Let's look at it from the other side now.
Right.
For me, this medication, I personally believe, and I say it to everyone, I think it's one of the things that is absolutely going to revolutionize, if not having already revolutionized, medicine. Now, I want to talk about a few specifics. So I come from the UK originally. I qualified and studied there. Interestingly, in the news a couple of weeks ago, the UK government is interestingly going to provide courses of these medications, these weight loss injectables, to, I think it's something like 250,000 unemployed plus obese people.
We will all migrate to the UK and be happy and unemployed over there.
And eat a lot, don't put weight on, gain weight.
Shit a lot and get slimmer and fit.
But I guess what my point here is, there must be something, they must be doing something, and there must be some positive effects, because ultimately the aim of this quote unquote study or this process is that we can get people to a point where they are no longer obese, where their weight issues, which have subsequently caused issues in relation to their health and have limited them from working back into work. And for me, that's massive. I mean, you're dealing with 250,000 potential people who you're reducing the burden on the healthcare system, you're reducing the burden on the governmental system, and as a result, you're getting them back into work. Secondly, those same people who are able to take their medication, who are able to be eligible for this or can go from a situation of being obese. We know that obesity carries its own limitations, increased risk of cardiovascular events. We know there's increased risk of psychological events. People will tell me, I cannot exercise and lose weight because I have back pain. I have back pain because I'm overweight. I'm caught in this vicious cycle. As a potential breaker for this, I think it's phenomenal. And that's why when
It's
people...
a very smart decision, right? Because they're thinking on the long term.
Absolutely.
And I hope that this would be even generalized in other countries who can afford it.
If it's successful.
And it's accessible, but on the same time, if you think on the long term, I think this, from my point of view, this is one of the smartest decisions ever made in medicine in general, you know? And I'm pretty sure that before they made such decision, they made all the, they could actually research and dive really deep into the outcome on the long term. And if they found this was the solution, I'm pretty sure that they really knew on the long term that the outcome most probably will be very positive economically, on the healthcare, and for the individuals themselves as well, because it's very important to see the impact on the individual as a patient, as a person, ethically as well.
Because the issue at the moment, I think as well, is if we think about at a national level, when you think about the three most probably causative issues when it comes to healthcare problems: obesity, alcohol, and probably tobacco and everything associated with that. A lot of institutes, a lot of governments actually are able to gain a lot of money back or through taxation of alcohol, taxation of nicotine, cigarettes, what it might be. And actually the relative burden versus on the healthcare system versus the amount that you're gaining from those products is actually tilted in the favor of the taxation. When it comes to obesity, unfortunately, we live in a world where it's cheaper to buy a 6-pack of crisps than it is to buy a small portion of fresh fruit.
Absolutely.
And what that knock-on effect is having is that people are shifting as a generation towards, we have more obese people now than we had probably 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Because being healthy is very expensive.
Absolutely.
And not everyone can afford being healthy on a daily basis, right?
Yeah.
And this is a big problem as well. It's a serious problem that we have.
Agreed. So one thing that I want to know is, obviously you can say, like, people are talking about, if I'm going to start this, how do we start this? What's the doses? And I'll say, listen, there's a whole catalogue of doses. We spoke about medicine being very individualized. So let's say if patients make the decision and they ask us, how do I go about taking it? What dose do I take? My friend's taking this dose. Why can I start that dose? However you want to phrase the question.
You know, the weight loss injectables, there's a very clear scheme of how to initiate and how to continue. Usually you always start with a minimal dose for so many reasons, and the main reason is you want to see how your body is tolerating, right? You want to initiate in a minimal dose and see how you're tolerating, if you're okay with that, in order to increase. So there are so many different doses and different indications depending on the type of the injectable that you're using. But usually in general, we start with a minimal dose, okay? We see how you're tolerating, if everything is fine, and then we go to a higher dose. If I find that the patient is getting all the effects that we need from this medication, so we got to our goal. This was our goal, this was our expectation, we got there. We maintain the same dose, okay, until we feel like we're not having the same effect again. At this moment, I can increase a bit again. Sometimes we can get to the maximal dose and the desired effect is not there. That means that the medication is not really working. It's not for everyone, but in a few cases, the medication just doesn't work. So we need to know when to stop and say, okay, it's not working, I need to stop it. Okay? So, and this is the general formula, and then it's case by case, and it's always the doctor who's going to decide what's best for you.
Yeah.
So never go over the counter and buy any dosage that you want or you like or your friend is using. It doesn't work this way. Everyone is unique. Our bodies are different. We react in different ways. We tolerate in different ways. So it's very important to think about yourself as a unique person, different from anyone else, and seek medical advice always.
Good. Yeah, it's like you said earlier in our
Yeah.
previous episode, medicine
Absolutely.
is tailored.
Yeah.
It's not
Tailored.
one fits all.
Yeah.
And the interesting point on this, actually, the initiation dose of these medications, actually, the companies that manufacture them say it's a sub-treatment dose. It's what they say is almost a trial dose.
Yeah.
And the main reason for that is to make sure that you're tolerating the medication without many side effects.
Yeah.
What you actually find is even on that dose, they're losing medication.
Sometimes, yeah, they do.
And this
Absolutely.
concept, I agree completely. A plateau. Once you reach a plateau, that's the point. The minimum effective dose, until there is a plateau
That's
at that
the
minimum
right
effective
dose.
dose, should be uptried. And not in all cases as well. So, no, I completely agree with those principles. What I would also add, and what is an extremely, I think, an important topic, is addiction. Medications are addictive. Now, when we think of addiction, for me, addiction from a medical point of view can be of two types. There can be something that you have a physical and a psychological dependence upon. And what I mean by this is there are certain drugs which you require. And if you do not have that medication or that drug inside you, you cannot function. You're withdrawing, you have side effects, you shake, you're cognitively not in the right shape. And that for me is a true addiction per se. There's a dependence on that medication and an inability to function without it. But a lot of people say, I'm addicted to this weight loss injectable. What do you think they mean? Do you want to shed a little bit of light onto what that term means for you?
Now, if we look at the research and of the opinion of a lot of expertise, so many experts, I want to say, the weight loss injectables themselves, they don't really they're not addictive, right? I think there is a specific form of addiction that individuals who are using them can develop, actually. And I call it is the addiction to the outcome of the weight loss injectables. Like, you're so happy about the outcome of it that you're so addicted to what's doing to your body that you don't want to stop it, because you don't want to lose this effect. You don't want to lose how you look like. You don't want to lose your new you. And like you said earlier, it becomes more like a lifestyle medication, and this is the type of addiction that I see in daily life with my patients, and this is how I perceive it personally.
I would probably add to that is 3 interesting phrases that I've heard people say to me. My relationship with food is the best it's ever been.
Yeah.
I think they love the fact that they can enjoy what they want after a few bites. They're full, so they're eating less, but they're still able to get a little. Yes. And I think they love that, because as humans, we're addictive by nature, and if we like something, we want more. We want more. It's hard for us to put a stop. Number 2, I think there is this addiction that's been driven by body dysmorphobia, and I've seen people who have hit, probably you would argue, weights that would classify them as being anorexic.
Absolutely.
And yet notice, I've got a little bit of I can grab a little bit of skin there.
This is a perception to their body, and when you don't have the right objective perception, and you have this subjective perception of being a bit fat while you're really anorexic, and this is how we call them.
Feeding that, it's driving that behavior, and that's something that I think, again, a physician needs to be involved to manage it.
Because there's a psychological problem here as well that needs to be addressed in these specific cases.
Absolutely. And then the last thing with numbers, I think people are becoming so obsessed over the minutiae. And what I mean by this, I've got a patient who started at 96, 97 kilos and got down to 73. He called me the other day and said, "Oh no, I'm really struggling." I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "I've gone up to 74.5 kilos." They are becoming so fixated and obsessed by these numbers. And obviously our role within this is to explain them, listen, you're well, you're fine, you're within the correct range, we're monitoring it, there's not much more that you need to do at this stage. We body composition him on a regular basis, but it's interesting that the mindset that I was 97, 98, I've gone down to what would be considered a normal weight for me, but then they become obsessed about half a kilo, 1 kilo. Do I need to increase my dose? Do I need to increase the frequency? And this
here comes the role of education and awareness again, explaining like, even if I'm taking the medication, the injectables, it doesn't mean that I transformed. I'm still a human being, and a human being can have fluctuations in his weight on daily basis or on weekly basis. It depends how much did I work out, did I travel, did I work hard, did I sleep well, what did I eat. So these fluctuations are normal within a certain range, and that we change the dosage of the treatment after a certain weight gain or rebound. That's only with the physician we can assess and see how significant it is, and if it's really like unusual or needs an increase in the medication.
Yeah. So I guess this brings me to probably one of the most important points, and I think if there is a take-home message that I would give people, and I'm sure you'll agree with this, if this is something that you are considering, get your physician involved at a very early stage, because there are complexities, there are nuances, there are pros, cons, side effects, and without a registered medical professional being on hand to help guide you through this journey, I think it's labeled with a risk. Agreed?
I agree 100%. And it's your health, your decision. Make sure you make the right decision. And I think that every individual really knows what's good and bad for themselves. And at the end of the day, we spread awareness, we explain, we support, but we cannot make this decision on their behalf. So this is how it is.
So before we finish, our marketing guys, sorry. So before we finish, somebody wanted us to do something a little bit more quick and a little bit interactive and a little fun. So we're going to go through some myths or facts, but we're going to be quick.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. So, if I take weight loss injectables, I'm going to get thyroid cancer. Myth or fact?
Myth. And the main reason being, there is evidence in studies, but those studies were carried out on animals and not on humans. At the moment, in human models, there's no evidence for it. That being said, if somebody has a history of cancer, and in particular thyroid cancer, I definitely would not advise them to take this medication. Myth or fact, when I stop this medication, my weight will stay as it is.
No, it won't. This is a myth. You always have the rebound effect. So never stop the medication abruptly on your own. Always seek medical advice, and usually it's advisable to stop it progressively to avoid regaining weight fast. Myth or fact? Do weight loss injectables work for everyone?
So that is a myth. Now, generally speaking, they're very effective. However, as we spoke about before, and I say countless times, medicine is not one fits all. We've seen examples of people who have gone through the full spectrum of doses, and even despite having the maximum dose, have had no effect. So myth or fact, if I take these medications, I don't ever need to exercise again.
It depends on you. Myth.
Why?
You absolutely need to continue exercising, because when you take these medications, most probably you're going to be losing muscle mass along with your fat mass. And if you don't exercise to preserve this muscle mass, you'll be slim, but without muscles. So you'll be at higher risk of injuries and you'll be weaker. And yeah, thank you for joining us. This was Mindlift, your destination to unlock your peak health performance based on scientific insights and inspired by real life stories.
Brought to you by the Brain and Performance Center, a DP World company here in the vibrant city of Dubai. So I'm Dr. Umair.
I'm Dr. Mouzayan.
Until next time.